Well, if that makes you angry, I'm glad. Because it certainly upsets me as a father and as a grandfather. I have my iPad up here, and I won't close it because I'll have to reopen it, but I have my 3 granddaughters that stare me in the face every day. And I remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. We do look to cause a visceral effect in men. We look to stir men up. We are systemic to the issue, but we're systemic also to the answer. The one thing I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to go through some of the practical things that we do as the defenders, the men of shared hope, but is to continue to bug the men in your life to be a part of this. Ladies, it's crucial. I will embarrassingly say my wife was involved in this issue for many years, and I was not. And I looked at it from the outside, and I thought it was a women's issue. And as a guy who wants to go to a tea party, who wants to go to a women's group, but she kept hounding me, and she kept saying, please come, please come, please come. And 2 things did it: Starbucks, and then the man who was in charge of security for our church was going, and I knew Tom, he was a good friend of mine, and I thought, okay, he's a manly man, I'll go to it. But seriously, I was so clueless as to what was going on because she was reading Renting Lacey, which is a book Linda wrote, which is a very visceral book. If you want to stir somebody up, give them that book. And she would come home and say, I'm going to read this book tonight, but honey, I don't know what to do. It's just, it makes me cry every time I read it. What should I do? So as any intelligent man would say, I just said, well, quit reading it, I'm serious. This is not a joke. I didn't know. I had no idea. And so she said, but honey, would you please come? And when I went, there was somebody from Nexus there sharing about this issue and ending demand and how we needed to get to men to stop the upstream battle. There were 70 people in the room. There were 6 men. 3 were part of the program. 2 other guys were younger than me, which I'm also seeing as a very encouraging fact, but I was there under a little coercion. But I didn't know anything, and I listened to what this man was saying, and I thought, I looked around the room, and I thought, these ladies can't do it alone. In fact, they really can't do it in a certain way, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. I've worked with men for 30 years, and men need to get in men's faces. And I thought, I got to get involved, but I thought, I don't even know what they're talking about. I know what the word pimp is. They're talking about Johns. And I really didn't know what that was. In fact, I thought, if these ladies ever get a hold of John, he is in serious trouble. That much I can tell. So I went up to the gentleman afterwards, and I asked him, what should I do to get involved? And he told me about the defenders. And so I said, okay, I've got to work with this group because I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't understand the issues, but I know this. Men have got to be stopped, and we've got to stir up men. Now, ladies, I really fully believe the majority of men are good men, but we got tunnel vision as men. And you've got to stir men up and get them ready to go. As a pastor, I realized women led men to the tomb. The ladies went there first. They came back to a scared group of 11 men and could only convince 2 to go. They go, 1 comes back, believes, the other ones go, I don't know what's going on. The rest of them stay in that room until he appears to them. It takes them 50 days. We call it Pentecost. 50 days for these guys to become world changers. So be patient. We are slow to move, but once we get going, we can get the act together. I really mean that. We are out to show that this is not the oldest profession. As we said earlier, it's the oldest oppression and the oldest form of slavery. So we're changing a cultural understanding. We do this politically. We mobilize men. We've done a lot of lobbying efforts in Olympia and then in Salem. So I encourage you, and I'm sure it's happening here, but guys, get involved in this House Bill 130. Now, it's the easiest thing to sell on both sides of the aisle. It's not a difficult sell. I don't care what party you're dealing with. As you begin to explain the issue, you can get this point across. But it takes boots on the ground to knock on the door. So help these legislators do that, not just encouraging them, but go and get this bill and knock on some doors in the halls here. In awareness, we deal a lot with training. We're working with high schools right now. We're using our product called Chosen. I'm excited, teaching young boys to peer-to-peer counsel and do the training, because it's going to take this next generation, and that generation listens to that generation a whole lot more than some of us old gray hair or no hair people. School districts we're working in Tacoma, Washington right now, and some of the Catholic Archdiocese in Portland, and we're working to get into the Seattle area. We work with clubs, whether it's Rotary. We go in with our awareness programs. Again, Chosen is one that we use an awful lot of. We work with restoration. Right now, I'm having some, I'll call strange men come into my life. I'll just put it that way. We work with Johns, certainly, and buyers that we're trying to encourage and pull out. But lately I've had some men that have sold girls come to me, that are coming out of the woodwork, that are gone from that life, thank God, but they're wanting to use their story. And I think there's a whole group of people that we're going to get to, because my wife thinks I'm a little crazy. I'm an ex-hippie from New York City, and I used to be doing stuff that you shouldn't have done in the 60s, you know. So I'm kind of crazy, but I want to get to those men that are selling, too. And I understand we work with law enforcement. I'm not one of those going to go in like a Navy SEAL into a room, but I honestly do pray, and I believe we're going to get to some of those people. Some of you might remember the days of Nicky Cruz and that, and I believe that we're going to be able to do that. We also are getting into the trucking industry. We've put Renting Lacey on an audio book, and so we're sending it. We've got some ins with some of the trucking companies. We'd like them to use it as an HR practice and also a training for their employees so they can become eyes and ears out there. We're working also with truck stops, with businesses to get that in there. The defenders also have been encouraging men of means to use their wealth to help this issue. In the Seattle area, we do have a lot of drop-in centers that our law enforcement love working with, but the one gap has also been, where can the girls stay for 2 to 4 years that are coming out? We had a defender donate a home on the Olympic Peninsula, a beautiful home, renovated. It is in pristine condition. Men went out, worked on the property. We've taken some survivors out there. I was talking with Teresa. She knows Rebecca Bender. We took her out there. And Rebecca was in tears saying, you don't know what this will mean to women, these girls, to know that these men came out here to do this and they want nothing from them. This is what we're encouraging men to do, because we need these homes where there's that wraparound, that therapeutic model. We're going to teach them budgeting. We're going to teach them homemaking. We're going to put them in contact with grants so that they can reconnect with their dreams and ideas for education. We're going to be part of the Super Bowl in Phoenix in 2015. Like Vern said, he loves to pick it. We're going to go out there and stand around Cardinal Stadium and let them know that this is something that we need to deal with. One thing my wife is starting right now is a support group for families. Because, as we work with a lot of girls, Linda and Vern do, my wife and I deal with a lot of girls that have come out, and one thing I love to do is to redeem their confidence in men. When I first meet these girls, and Vern knows this too, they won't make eye contact with a guy like me, because I hate to say it, the average guy is about 40, 50, and 60 that is doing a lot of this buying. So I make it my business to be very patient, but to make eye contact. And then after a while, they'll start talking to me. And after a while, they feel really comfortable as they see my relationship with my wife. Again, this is so systemic, so many of the different things we need to put together as men to portraying then what a good male looks like to these ladies, and then they feel comfortable with you. We're working with, these families. If a girl has been sold into slavery, oftentimes these are good homes too. And the parents are very embarrassed and don't know how to handle it. And my wife is starting a support group. I think there's a whole wraparound model that we're talking about that goes with survivors, to the buyers, to those that are selling, to the good men to wake up, but then also the families that have had this happen to them that we need to consider standing with them. So again, there's a lot of practical things we as defenders have been involved with, and we want to encourage you. And again, I've met some men this morning here that are on the same track and doing something with men here in the state of Ohio, and I applaud your efforts. I want to thank you, too. This is great, like we said, to see this many people gathered together, and you're all doing a great work, as I heard all the tables and went around. A lot of good things are going here in this state that's really going to deal a good effort to stop this modern-day slavery. So I want to thank you very much for your attention and your time here this morning.